Recession-proofing your business, recession-proofing your life, and recession-proofing your brain. Fearless was actually we were having a pretty good conversation. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll the intro, and then Fearless, as soon as the intro stops, you can jump back into your train of thought here.
I got you, man. Thank you.
If I can find it. There we go. All right, before you get started, I'm gonna go ahead and make sure my stuff is public on Facebook.
Okay. Do I need to do the same?
Yeah, you probably do, so that you can see the Facebook comments.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, brother, whenever you're ready to go.
Okay, give me 1 sec, sir.
All right.
Okay, so first off, before we get started, I wanted to tell you this. It's kind of funny. Because I forgot which one of my episodes that we do at night that I did this, but I accidentally put in what did I put in? I ran Anya's intro on my show instead of running my own. And if you notice, anybody knows or watches Ask Fearless at night at 8:30, I have my own little intro and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bro, it was so funny because I hit the button and then Anya pops up and all of her stuff. I'm like, what is this? And then it dawned on me that I didn't actually hit my intro. I hit hers. But it went off without a hitch. Everybody loved it or whatever. And everybody's like, dude, that was so funny. I mean, like running somebody else's intro, like that's crazy. Anyway, so what we were talking about was, hold on, let me change my thing up for 1 second, please. Okay, there we go. So from now on, reframing expert is what my thing is going to be. But I've been doing a lot of soul searching, especially with the Trial and Error podcast and also my Ask Fearless at night, because I run it every single night. You know what I mean? So I have repetition after repetition after repetition. So I'm now understanding what's working for me and what's not. And one of the things that when I was talking to a therapist friend of mine was that they were saying is like, when you find that niche that just works for you, man, buckle down and get in there. Have fun with it. Especially if it speaks to you probably more so than anything else. And over the past however long, one of the things that I've noticed was I've always asked myself, like, what is my niche? And, if there is one, because again, if you end up serving everybody, you end up serving nobody. Right? Because then everybody's like, it's kind of bland, it's kind of whatever. But doing this now, 40 episodes in, 55 videos now, and now, the thing that you and I do, it's really starting to hit me like, okay, like I think I know where my stuff is or whatever. And working with people with imposter syndrome, that hit me harder than anything else. Because like I know that. Like I lost everything because of what I was saying to myself. I lost everything because of that fear of failure. I lost everything because of that self-talk, confidence, that overthinking everything. And then the worst to me, the worst of them all was survival's guilt or success guilt, which a lot of people don't ever talk about that. You hear about survival's guilt. Well, I survived this, that, and the other. But actually, it's funny as shit because Kendrick Lamar, I'm thinking one of his albums. I forgot which one. I think it was what Tongi did with the YG. He was talking about survival's guilt, not just survivor's guilt, but success guilt.
Right.
Because, and that's how a lot of these rappers. Hey, what's up, Christopher? That's how a lot of these rappers end up being where they are because of that type of guilt that they have of surviving what other people didn't, of succeeding where other people didn't. So then what happens to you is that the confidence that you have in your art starts to depreciate, it starts to collapse.
Right.
Then that fear of failure, I mean, and most of the time, like I don't even think that it's a fear of failure because we don't really think about failing at that party. We have that toxic self-talk. And then we start doubting ourselves. And it's not even a thing of failure because you've already succeeded for the most part. But it's that overthinking of all these other things. And then when you start becoming successful, even that becomes you if you think about it, you're now out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
So who would have thought that succeeding was out of my comfort zone? You know what I'm saying? I mean, now you got people asking you for money. You got everybody wanting to be your friend. You have no idea who to fucking trust anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't know. You got to go to dating sites. Like you have to hook up with like basically a legal pimp to get a mate because you don't know how to get out here and talk to people no more. Oh my God, right there. Oh my God.
Yeah.
For those of y'all who are successful, tell me if I'm lying. Tell me if I'm lying. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, we don't know who to trust. I mean, in our relationships in general. Yeah, you know what I mean? So that success sometimes will do a number on you. And then at the end of the day, you still feel like a fucking fraud.
And that's the crazy part because I had an entire series about on the Unstuck sessions. I have an entire couple of podcasts about dealing with the imposter syndrome and how it's not really easily defeated by success. And I talked
No, that's
about
one of the parts that's broken.
yeah.
And my objective is to reframe all of these things. Go ahead though.
And one of the things I talked about there was the way because I've dealt with the imposter syndrome and the negative inner talk, but there's also some clinical stuff behind there, like
Oh yeah, for sure.
like the ADHD and a couple of other things I kind of came up with, but I was kind of framing it in the reference of how I dealt with the imposter syndrome or whatnot, and I had a different take on it for me, and what worked for me was I'm so accustomed, used to hearing the negative inner voice that I can actually have the dialogue with it. And one thing I do is anytime the negative inner voice tells me I can't do something, I do it to prove it wrong. That's why we're here. That's why we have the lights, cameras set up, all of this other stuff. Because for me, my negative inner voice, I worked 4 years in college radio. I don't like the sound of my voice. I don't like the sound of myself. I don't like how I look on camera. I don't like any of that stuff.
Me neither.
But I leaned into that. And so I'm like, okay, I may not get the pretty privilege that, people enjoy on social media or whatnot, but I still feel like I have a voice and I have something to say. And so that's why I leaned into the content creation. So my negative inner voice is like, nobody wants to hear you or see you. And so I said, all right, bet I'm gonna prove you wrong.
Yes,
and so
sure.
that's how I always dealt with it. I know it's going to be a persistent thing. Some days it's quieter than others. Some seasons in my life it's louder than others. But for me, it's something that it's like it's going to be there. So what do you do with somebody that's always trying to embarrass you or show that you're not worth what you think? You go and prove them wrong, and that's how I roll, and that's how I execute stuff.
That part. No, and I think that for the most part, I think that's how we have to be. We have to be that way. And one of the things that when we do our coaching at night, one of the things that I decided last night, literally, was that I'm like, I've been teaching you guys all this stuff or whatever, and I always say that every presentation that I give is a cookie cutter presentation, all of them,
Mhm.
because it's meant to just give you the information and then we move on to something else. And I noticed last night that I'm I'm moving, I'm trying to bring people up to where I am.
Right.
But the problem is that I can't do that because you don't have my experiences, you don't have my education, you don't have my trauma, you don't have my drama,
Mm.
you don't have my experience, you don't have my shit. So I can't bring you up to where I am. That's not gonna work. So instead, what I have to do is come back down here, meet each and every one of you where you are, and then kind of help you up as we rise this thing up together.
Yep.
No man left behind. And so I apologize to everybody that comes on to my live. Hey man, I did you guys a serious injustice. I did not mean to do this, but I now notice what I've done. And now we're gonna go back and we're gonna fix stuff before we move forward. Because some of the stuff that I've been looking at is people having uh this negative self-talk and how they feel about themselves, right? Lack of confidence, self-doubt, certain fears of letting other people down, boundary problems. I'm like, dude, and a lot of this stuff stems from our belief system. And the problem is, even with our belief system, is that we have to actually, you have to identify the actual belief within itself. You have to expose it so that we can do something about it.
Right.
But if you just say, um, people are not loyal, okay, well, loyal can mean anything. What does loyalty mean to you? What does that mean? How do you define what that is? Before you tell me what they're doing, tell me what that means to you. So now I understand where you're coming from, and then I can kind of help you up from there. But I cannot help you if you have a definition and I have a definition, but they're not the same thing. And Jessica, after we were done with our, and we even went over a little bit with the podcast last night. She asked me, she said, "Why do you keep asking about people's definitions? Like, because you ask that with everybody. As soon as they said something to you, say, well, what does that mean to you?" I said, simply because I know what a word means to me, but I don't know what it means to you.
Yeah.
So until I understand what your definition is, I'm gonna be working off of my own thing. Go ahead, bro.
Two things on that. Two things
Go
on that
ahead.
front. So, one, I like the way how you put that, because one of the things about how the human brain works, right? The only way, one of the main ways that human beings communicate with each other is language, right?
Yes.
But the process of communicating thoughts is kind of a sloppy one, because I have to take the jumble of electrical impulses that's going on up here, find words to convey it, and then say it to you, and then it has to pass through your filters, and you have to understand what I'm saying to you, if that makes sense. And so language isn't a clean way of communicating thoughts and feelings, but it's one of the ways that we primarily use. And so having
Sure.
common definitions is important. Another thing, when you're talking about people's thoughts and beliefs and stuff like that, I remember telling one of my staff back in the day, um, and this was doing, I think, when I was managing family support workers. I had one or two that was provisionally licensed as a mental health practitioner, and
Okay.
so I'm sitting there talking to her, and one, I realized that, you know, well, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but when I'm talking to her, I had to kind of explain to her, um, because she was talking about how resistant one of the families she was dealing with was to the actual truth of the matter, and they were. And I said, the thing you need to understand is what you're doing is you're walking into their life, and you are absolutely upsetting the core of their beliefs, the pillars of their reality. You're telling them that they're not real. when you break a person down to that level, you are going to see absolutely bonkers behaviors. You're going to see that's typically when people lash out. When their world, their reality is shattered, you're going to see the worst of people. And I said, it's not your fault. What you're doing is they have very strong convictions, and you are upending those convictions with what the reality of their situation is. And so they are acting out in that manner. And she hadn't seen it like that, but it was just a soft reframe. Like, understand that you, and I said, and I've expanded it to working with family support workers. I expanded it to working with kids. I said, when you destroy somebody's sense of what reality is, and you're substituting it in with what actual reality is, you're going to see an absolute wide gamut of out of control, unexplainable behaviors. Just because they're on one hand, they're trying to claw back the reality. On the other hand, they're trying to accept the new paradigm. It's crazy. And so when we start getting into what people's core beliefs are, it is a messy process, is what I'm saying. And there's no blame that goes with it. It's just understanding what you're walking into and understanding and even preparing them. Like, I'm going to upset what you believe. I'm going to challenge what you believe. And there are going to be times where you have a very difficult time processing what I'm telling you. And understand that's a natural part of the process because we're trying to rebuild you. But yeah, it can be an absolute, that's when I would see, when I was working directly with kids that had some major behavior, that's when we would see like psychotic breaks and kids doing, massively self-destructive things when their sense of reality of what they believed in their core, when that got proven to be false. That's all I got on that one.
No, and I love that because, and actually I appreciate you saying that, man, because, and I start writing down as soon as you said some of those things that this is going to be messy. And, one of the things that I show people that during every one of our talks, let me show you my screen right quick, is that I show everyone, oops, hold on. I'm sorry about that. Give me a sec. Here we go. We'll use this one instead. Oh, damn, man, is it on there? Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. One of the things that I show people is this right here is the warning. If you are easily offended, this is not for you. And as soon as you said that, I'm like, okay, that's a really good idea, because I think explaining to people that, like, no, like that makes a lot of sense of preparing people about what you're about to step into. And matter of fact, I'm gonna write that down. So that's kind of what I was, as you were talking about that, I was like, man, that is so that is so important, like preparing people for exactly what they're about to walk into. And usually I'll just be like, if you're easily offended, this isn't for you, because I say the fuck word, or I say this, or I say that. But I'm like, no. What you said is so much more deeper than that, because it's not even a thing of if you're easily offended. It's a thing that we are going to challenge your belief structure. Like everything that you thought you think you knew might be challenged. And we're going to question it. We're going to, and this is one of the things that I love about about my boy Diogenes, D, is that D kind of taught me that D was helping me with some with this presentation I was working on, right? And he had just said, and it was a small little line, and I don't even think that D really understood what he was saying. And I grabbed it. It was three things, right? And it was find it, face it, reframe it. I'm like, bro, that's it.
Right.
Like, that's it. So again, when we're asked, what is it that we do? Well, we find the problem. I mean, if there is one, we face it for what it is, and we reframe the shit out of it. And that can be scary for some people. Finding it in the first place, yeah, we can find it, but most of the time, like we said, most of what you think is a problem is not the problem. So then when you uncover what the actual issue is,
Mhm.
now you got to face it for what it is.
Right.
Now you got to see it. And that is the scariest part. Like I said, like I tell people, being homeless is not scary. That's not scary at all. I
Right.
know because I've been there. The scariest part about being homeless is being alone with you
Wow.
when you don't know who you are. That is the scariest part about homelessness. Dead ass, no joke.
Right.
That's the scariest part. Being being alone with you, you don't have no crutches. You don't have nothing to fall back on. You can't you can't duck your head in the fucking proverbial sand.
Right.
You gotta sit there. Bro, that is the scariest thing about being a human that I have ever witnessed. For
Right.
for me. I can't speak on somebody else. I can only speak on what happened to me. But while I was homeless, I talked to other people that were homeless as well because we would all go work at temp services. And the stories that they would tell me matched my own. You
Right.
can you most people have no idea of the things that you can go without and get used to it. You can go without all the vehicles. You can go without all your clothes. You can go without all of your books. I didn't know that, right?
Right.
You can go without TVs. You can go without music. You can go with anything outside of you. You can go without it. But I'm telling you, the scariest part about it is when you're face to face with you. That is that right there is scarier than anything else. And that's one of the things that once you understand that concept, that it's okay. That because when you got here, you didn't have shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Before you own what you own, you didn't have it at that time. So guess what? When you're gone, all of your possessions are still gonna be here. They're not going with you,
Right.
you know? But like I said, that is the scariest part about being homeless. It's being face to face with you. And there is no imposter syndrome when you ain't got shit. You know what I'm saying? There is no fraud when you ain't got shit.
Wow.
So for me, that's why I was just like, bro, like when I'm working with these other people, I cannot bring them. So I can't bring them up to me because they're already where I was. But it's no problem for me to step down
Hmm.
a few pegs. Hey, where we at? Talk to me.
Right.
Let's lift up together. Cause I've been here. I've done this. We'll do it together. What do? But first we have to be honest about it. We have to find it. What is it? Where is it? Face it for what it is, like you said. Because facing the hardcore truth, that shit's scary. That when you are with you, that can be scary. And then how do we reframe this? How do we fix this? I mean, is there any fixing? We can always reframe it though, because it's
Right.
yours, you know. But that's what I noticed. Just kind of listening to you that little bit. This right here, I think it meant so much different now. So now at night, I'm going to change this to like warning if you don't like being challenged, if you don't like your reality being upended, this is not for you
Right.
because this is where the work begins. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna shut this off, but I just wanted to kind of let you and our listeners know, like, this is what we do every night. And I say, I don't know if my friend Julie is still here, but and if you are, hey Julie, I will always say, man, I'm gonna have to if she's like, I'm gonna have to take this woman out for lunch, man. I'm not even joking. Like, if it wasn't for Julie, I wouldn't be doing this right now, man. I wouldn't have started Axe Fearless. We wouldn't be on episode 40, season 4, episode 4. Actually, no. Yeah, no, actually, technically, this would be season 5,
Right.
episode 40. I wouldn't even be doing that right now if it wasn't for this woman. You know, oh my God, I love her, dude. I'm like, Julie, you gonna make me fall in love with you, woman. Stop. But like, if it wasn't for her, like, if whether she knew it or not, she's what I needed when I needed it. You know, and I went through this whole rigmarole of Joseph Campbell, one of my favorite people in general. The hero of 1,000 faces, the hero's journey.
Right.
And one of the things that he talks about is finding those guides, or when those guides find you, you don't know where they're going to come from. You don't know how they're going to affect you when they affect you.
Right.
And this woman said something that was so simple. To her, it was nothing. It was 15 pieces, 15 days, 15 minutes. And because she said that, we're on episode 40 now.
Wow.
Because I took something and again, Julie's like, bro, this is what everybody had to do. So to her, it didn't mean much. To me, it meant everything. And I tell anybody who will listen, this woman saved my fucking life. This woman took this idea that I've had in my head for the last 10 years, and whether she knows it or not, again, my best friend Jessica has been telling me, bro, you got to do this. Bro, you got to do this. Right? Jessica is she is my best friend next to my boy Evan. Right? She's it. And I usually turn down the shit that she says to me. Right? Because that's what we do with our friends.
Mm-hmm.
But man, like, Julie just came out of nowhere and was like, just said that one thing. And her just kind of taking that time to listen to me and explain it to me what her process was, changed my life. And I'm like, this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of the time that God allows me to live. This is it. Microphone, camera, let's go. Now, I don't watch my own shit. I'm like Marlon Brando, bro. Remember when we started, we recorded everything.
Right.
We don't record nothing no more. We talk a little bit before about what we're going to talk about. We hit that button and we just go. Do we not, sir?
Oh yeah, we do a little bit of pregame before it, and then just hit the camera.
We just go. And the reason why we do that, and for myself, is because I don't want to rewatch my own stuff. I don't like rewatching it. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to do this. Instead, what I will do, I'll just hit that live button, go live, and however the cookie crumbles is how it crumbles.
Right.
That's where we're going. And then you were up for the same thing. Remember, I told you, like, hey, I don't want to record no more. I just want to go live. That was the greatest. For me, that was the greatest decision that we both decided to make. Was that my thing of helping my friend to go get stuff from Julie was another decision that was just absolutely phenomenal for me, because I thought it was just going to be you and I once a week. And I kept telling you, bro, this ain't enough. This ain't enough.
Yeah.
And now I do it every day.
Right.
Whether anybody else show up. Matter of fact, I tell people, hey, if y'all want to do a podcast, I'll do it with you. Let's go. Like, let's go. Like, because I want to get them reps in. I got to get my reps in. I had 10 years of not doing nothing. So I got a lot of catching up to do. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, man.
And so, and that's kind of what we did.
I love you, Julie.
Sorry. We figured out the best way that made sense for both of us to create the kind of platform we wanted. And I think that a lot of times people never find their thing. They never find the thing, or the doubt is so loud that they don't feel comfortable in leaning into a way that nobody's ever done before, or a way
Yeah.
that they're unfamiliar with. And I think that's kind of what we did. Was we're like, okay, the live stream thing works for our needs. We could still repurpose the video, because that was the biggest important thing, is we could still repurpose the video, but we get the live version of it, and get us unfiltered and more in the stream of thought, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has more value than, a majorly edited video. I do most of my stuff live. Most of the content I record is live stream. And so
Doesn't that feel better?
Yeah.
I mean, like that. Let me ask you, does that feel better to just go live with it? Because once it's out there, it's out there. You can always do all the editing and stuff later. You can always break it down to small shorts later on. But I'm just saying, sometimes just going live, just for me, it just puts it all out on the table. Here you go. Right. That's how I feel about it.
I feel the same way. And I think you get the, what was it? A couple weeks ago, I was talking about the Prince on Make Art Now, where he was more in line with catching the feeling than getting it right. He wanted to keep the feeling of, so he left his mistakes in, and he didn't do a lot of redos. He just went with the feeling and the vibe that was present in what he created at that moment. And that's what he rolled with. So
you talking about Prince?
Yeah.
Okay. I just finished reading this book. I'm gonna get this book right quick because I just finished it. This book was so good. Oh my God. It was so good. Extremely inspirational. Like, I gave this book, I don't even know, what did I give it? Because I read all my books. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
Okay.
4.5 out of 5. I should have probably gave it a little bit higher, but she kind of rambled a little bit on certain shit. But okay, hold on. Let me get you, because bro, I'm telling you, man, this book was so good. Hold on 1 second. Let's go in here. Hold on. No. Yeah, Jeremy did. What are you talking about, in our bathroom? Oh, Jeremy. Close the door. All right, do you see this? We need your art.
Yeah.
This book was absolutely amazing. Get it.
Okay.
Get it. For anybody, and art doesn't just mean that you draw something or that you're writing a composition. It means whatever it is that you're doing. People need what you're doing.
Right.
Period. And she really went into this book. It was so good. So good. It was so good.
Is there an audio book of it?
Yes, there is an audio book as well.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, I will get usually 2 books. I'll buy the physical copy, right, which is what I have, and then I'll read along with it on the audio version. So any book I buy 2 versions of it. The physical and the auditory. Because for me, I like to listen as I read along with it, because that it interacts with like 3 of my 5 senses,
right,
or whatever, so I can remember it because I saw it, I heard it, and then I felt it as well, because I take extensive notes in my books. I'm one of those guys, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry, I write in my books, but I also don't plan on selling them or giving them away to people. And that is why I will live forever. I am immortal. So I guess so. You ain't like, I have my own my own library in my house. I think that in order to be considered as a library, you have to have, I think it's like 1,100 books or something like that.
Right.
I have over 2,000. So yes, actual library here. But yeah, get this book, man. For those of you, please go get this book. If you have something that you want to give people, something that you love to do, Julie, you got to get this book. This book reminded me so much of you, like so much, because she just, and you too, Jessica, because she really took the idea. You know what? Another person, now that I'm thinking about this, my friend Beverly. She loves history. Like, she doesn't like history. She loves history. And this history is her art. And all she wants to do is talk about it and give that history. And I would love for people to jump on here, get on here, and start your own podcast, start your own thing. Because I'm just saying, like, this is fun. I love this. And giving my art, which is the ability to reframe certain things, our issues, our dreams, goals, aspirations, problems. I love this shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I have notes all over my desk because I get inspired by something and I gotta write it down. I get inspired by something, so I have to create a whole course about it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you get inspired, man. And the great thing about her book is that she says that she kind of likes to debunk the old adage that a starving artist. She said, no, why do we have to be starving artists? She said somebody else said that your art's not good enough for people to pay for it. So then therefore you minimize charging for it. She said, no, your art's just, she said, oh my God, I don't know if I can, man, I don't even know if I actually saved it where she put, because I wrote so much into it. Oh my God. But um, she was talking about all these so-called gatekeepers that will take your art and do all kind of she said there are all kind of people that will take your art and do all kind of stuff with it. She said Spotify is just Spotify, but Spotify ain't shit if you don't have artists.
Right.
Apple Music is nothing without the artists. Um, Libraries are nothing without authors. So don't sit there and sell yourself short that, oh, there's not enough for you. Bullshit. There
Right.
is enough for you. There's an overabundance for you. If my friend Julie can have all kinds of issues and get her ass on Facebook Live every fucking night
Right.
and be selling shit, knowing she in pain, the fuck out of here. And we ain't monetizing shit. I'm just telling y'all, that's where it is. Like, seriously, as long as I've known her, she's had all kinds of physical ailments, but she still figures it the fuck out. And you can too. So again, but that's what they try to sell us. They try to sell us on the fact that, nah, you don't need this, or you don't need that. We'll handle it for you. I just saw an article where Snoop Dogg was talking about when he first came out back in the 90s. He was talking about um having these clothes where they had paisley, but he had a certain pattern for paisley, but it was called rags or something like that or whatever, right?
Right.
And he went to the clothing manufacturer, the clothing company. They're like, nah, no, you don't need to do anything like that. Bring us another idea, and then we can do that. He said, not even a couple years later, they're selling the same idea that he was just talking about. So basically, they will take your idea and run with it. They ain't got no problem doing that. But then they'll tell you that, well, nobody's really buying. Or one of the things that I learned was that the art industry is a fucking scam. It's a scam brought to you by people
It's
that don't know what they're
marketing.
talking about. It's about marketing.
Mhm.
I think it was 2020, years ago. And matter of fact, you think I'm lying? Look it up on YouTube. They had children go in and like 4 or 5 year olds write paint, and then they put it in this like high price museum.
Uh-huh.
And then they had these people come in. They're like, oh my god, like Oh my God, like who did that? This is such blah 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 blah. How much did you pay for this? Oh, I would easily give $120,000 for something like that. They were talking about how much they would pay for this. And then afterwards, they're like, a 5-year-old did that, right? No, they're so ahead of their time. It's like, no, literally, a 5-year-old did this. Matter of fact, they got together and they just started slapping paint on this shit. So you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So majority of these people that we consistently keep thinking are these authority figures in these certain industries in these fields don't know what they're talking about. So if you have an idea of some stuff, get it out there, tell people about it. The biggest part, I think, the reason why so many of us stay broke, it's not that I do not think that it's your skill or it's your talent. I personally believe, and this is like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I personally believe that it is. Hey, come say hi to Julie. I think she's on here. Say hi, Julie.
Hey, Julie. It's Anya.
I
How
think
you
she's
doing,
on.
girl?
I would ever say you. All right, see you later.
Bye.
All right. So what was I saying?
Right.
So we get these ideas, and
Right.
then we don't do shit with them, or whatever, because somebody else told you that. Well, they know it's gonna do. Now I know where I was going. Marketing. If you market yourself to the right people or person, it's gonna go gangbusters for the most part. So that's nothing to really do much with talent. You know how many untalented people I see that are millionaires? Extremely untalented.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So again, that shit happens. And so we have to get away from oh yeah, here it is. I got it. It's called Wouldn't Exist Without You. It says artists sorry, Amy, I'm gonna read your stuff out because it was so good. She said artists produce huge amounts of wealth, contributing hundreds of billions of dollars of to the economy each year and supporting industries worth hundreds of billions of dollars. But we are constantly gaslighted into believing that we deserve to be poor because it's the interest of the people in the boardroom who need to hit their quarterly sales figures. Instagram wouldn't exist without creators. Audible without writers.
Right.
Sony and Spotify without musicians. Acquisitions or Activision without coders and game designers. Galleries without artists. And yet they all tell you that there's no money in art. This is what they tell you. But yet instead, these are $1 billion companies. $1 billion. Think of this is all under. I'm just saying.
Right.
Look it up for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Look it up yourself. And that's the reason why I write my books, because I always need to find what I was talking about.
Well, and that's the challenge. Like, I think a lot of people talk about, what AI can do and what AI is going to do and whatnot. The one thing that AI can't do or duplicate is our ability to create imaginative stuff, and create novel content and create things and create beauty and stuff like that. All it can do is just skim ideas of other people and regurgitate it. And so there's always going to be a lane for creative people.
Right. Have you ever seen one of the AIs create something? That shit looks out of that stuff looks like it looks like the things out of nightmares.
Right.
Like that's just nightmarish. Like, oh my God. Like,
But
who would create something like that?
But I do think that there is utility in it. And I think the next iteration of people is going to figure out how to utilize, because there's going to be an entire, like, we're still in the early stages of the AI thing.
Yeah.
I think there's still going to be a couple of major issues that pop up with it and some major scandals that pop up with it. And then there's going to be kind of a push to figure out ethical uses versus unethical uses. And that'll give license to platforms who have ethical frameworks versus platforms that don't. And then that will be a point that they can sell on. I just think that, what's going to happen is we're going to see creators at some point, and there's always going to be creatives that don't go along with it, just like there's going to be creatives that when the digital camera revolution took over, there's going to be people that stuck with cinema or stick with film cameras, right?
Yeah.
From their artistic standpoint, the medium they wanted to use was not digital. And I think that's the direction that this thing is going to head eventually. We're still early stages with this stuff.
Listen to me. I read this book called Sex Bots, and it was actually talking, I think it was like sex robots or something like that. And they were talking about like the sex industry. And I'm not trying to be weird, but I'm just saying in business. But they were talking about the sex industry, like in general. Did you know that those real sex dolls that are like, a couple $1,000s or something like that?
Mhm.
Do you know what's going to happen to the population once those things get matched up with AI capability?
Ugh.
I can almost guarantee they're gonna have to house babies some other way, because I can almost assure you that the world population, for the most part, especially in America, is going down considerably. Hey, I think it's gonna go down considerably, because at that point, you can have as many females as you can possibly have. You won't know if they're real or not. You can program them to cook, clean, do ungodly acts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it was kind of just talking about like all of these different things. And I was thinking about like what happens, how many years is it going to be before, and I'm not joking about this, I'm being honest. How many years is going to happen where a robot is going to claim that it had been sexually assaulted and that it did not want certain things? You see what I'm saying? And then it's going to go to that whole thing of ownership versus
and consent,
autonomy and consent,
and
stuff like that. What did I buy? I mean, like, do we have problems with that shit as human beings? Could you imagine a robot doing this? And again, y'all, it sounds like I'm joking, but there's a whole industry that's writing books on this stuff that eventually they're talking about. It is eventually going to occur at some time or another. It's going to happen.
Right.
Probably not in the next 50 years. I mean, I don't even want to say 50, because they already have, the AI is doing what it's doing right now, and it's jumping leaps and bounds every other month. I just had this whole thing. Look up the whole entire field of life coaching, therapy, and psychoanalysts and analyzing, and it did it all within 20 minutes. It gave me every footnote that I would need. It gave me every genre pertaining to my industry.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it did. It gave me everything. So like I'm just saying, whatever's coming is coming, and it's going to make a huge disruption in whatever we think that we got going on.
And so this aligns with what the topic of what we're talking about is: recession-proofing your business, recession-proofing your life.
Mhm.
Because a lot of this is, there's going to be a level of, kind of seeing what's actually happening in the world, and being able to adjust to it and adjust to new tools and doing things that you necessarily weren't 100% confident in or competent in, like being able to pivot, because we had the conversation about pivoting last time when the last time we had this level of economic kind of uncertainty in the horizon was during the pandemic. And I was in a position where I was running a business that required use of public spaces, and we had to pivot hard off of that.
Okay.
and it almost meant the end of what we were doing, and we had to find other ways to deliver the service. And so that's where we started doing training online. That's where we started finding, instead of public spaces, we found public spaces that were owned in the private sector where we could actually go in and talk to the owners and do stuff. And so there were all kinds of different things that we had to do to adjust what our service offering was. And that is one of the things, is being flexible and utilizing some tools that we didn't say that we were going to utilize, and doing things that we said we weren't going to do at the time, just because that's what the situation necessitated. And so I think a lot of times when we have success, we get locked into our pattern of success. And when something changes on the horizon, we have a hard time shifting our framework and shifting what we actually are going to do. And that can be a burden, especially when you go into times of economic uncertainty. And it's not just for business owners, y'all. We're talking about your personal life, your work life, all kinds of other stuff. There's going to be things that you have to do when the economy and things change around you in order to survive. And so, that's kind of where that's where a lot of the previous conversation goes. It's, how flexible are you? How willing are you to let go of things that you've had that are entrenched ideas, to embrace the new paradigm and embrace what's coming down the pipeline for you?
Right.
And I think that is a determinant factor. That was a determinant factor in terms of who succeeds and who doesn't, is really.
Okay.
So that's my way of kind of putting it out there, is the people that succeed in situations where others fail are the ones that can adjust quickly and let go of things that they thought were formative ideas to them. That's kind of where I'm going with it.
Right. It's kind of like the old, like those shirts would say, adapt or die.
Yeah.
Right. Like that, because you and I like how you said that people get stuck in that proverbial success trap, where they're like, well, this is what we did to become successful, so we're just gonna stay here. And the problem with that is what happens if another COVID happens?
Right.
What happens if there's like this SARS or outbreak or something like that shuts the world down for a month or 2 or 3? You know what I'm saying? One of the things that my partner and my business partner talked about, when he had done books, he was doing it during COVID, and he was making quite a bit of money. And he's like, dude, like, this is a hack. Like, everybody needs books. Everybody wants them. I'm like, of course, I'm a consumer.
Right.
So I know what you're saying. And so we were talking about that. And then after the, thing happened, we have a book business and all that, and it's, not doing as well as we thought. He was like, the one variable that I forgot to take into account is actually the most important one. But that the biggest problem with that is it was during COVID.
Right.
So everybody was buying books because there was nothing much else to do. Now that they're not buying books, they don't have to be home all the time. That is actually dwindled down to yikes. You know what I mean? And again, I didn't know that. I mean, he didn't realize that as well. So we put a lot of blame on a lot of other things, as opposed to, well, what happened 4 or 5 years ago where people were buying so many books? Well, there's your culprit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you're not going to think about that like right now, but until you do some reflection, like, oh man, that's what happened. Okay.
And COVID kind of helped accelerate that that product on demand kind of thing, where I want this thing delivered to my home, and I want it now. And I think that's where it kind of went. And the unfortunate side is there's no way to really replicate that. And I think the most important thing is this is where you define your niche and define your lane and define your market, your segment of market that you're going to serve, and laser focus in on serving those people, because that's the only way that you can kind of replicate the global thing that COVID did. Because it was, for us, it was, it happened before. Global pandemics have happened before, right? But the reality is it was novel to this generation of human beings and novel to the digital age. And so a lot of things that happened during that time aren't necessarily replicable, but they're not going to go away either.
Okay.
And so by laser focusing in on the segment that messes with you and the segment that loves what you're doing, I do think that, for me at least, I think that that's the way that to get a little bit of that. It's just redefining what your offer is and figuring out, okay, precisely who am I going to serve? Because I don't have the entire globe coming for this specific service, because now the global situation has changed. So now how do I laser focus in? And I think that's one of the things that we have to lock in, in times of economic uncertainty. You have to get more specialized with what you're offering. You have to get more precise and solve more narrow of a problem for people.
Okay. So one of the things that Julie said is that I thrived during COVID. My lives brought people together when they couldn't meet in person. My sales weren't heard. And you know what's so crazy about that is that I meet a lot of people who feel the same exact way. Like, for certain people, COVID dismantled and devastated their lives, their business, everything, because it was so person to person.
Mm-hmm.
But for somebody like Julie, because I think that's when I was actually seeing her lives, just during probably that time. And yeah, I mean, people were buying stuff and this, that, and the other, or whatever. So I totally agree with you. I made more money during COVID. I mean, I made more after, but like during COVID, oh my God. Like I think I bought my car. Like, probably not. I think I bought my car like right after COVID or whatever. Because like it was a massive wait. But I also sold like 3 of my cars too back to the dealership because they couldn't get those chips in. And my cars, plural, had like low mileage. So I was able to sell them and get a really good payoff amount. So my credit went from like, it's already at like 7 or something like that. It's like 775 or some shit like that. It skyrocketed. And then let's look at what Chris says. Chris is on YouTube. He says, plus people have kindness now that they could buy the same type of books for less. Why book business is struggling. I don't understand that, Chris. Like, what are you saying? Or are you saying that they have a different type of book now? Hold on, not here it is. Hold on. Oh, okay, Kindles. That makes sense. That I'm like, what? Like kindness? Like what? Okay, Christopher, that makes sense, buddy. Thank you for clearing that up, my guy. So, yeah, I got you. I get you, Chris. No, and you're right. But here's the thing, though, Chris. I think that here's the thing. If Kindles were that big, if they were that big on anything, I think, then I think that the sales of physical books would actually go down a bit. But I don't think that they are, because Barnes and Nobles is still building companies or building brick and mortar. Is it mortar? Mortar. Buildings. Bookstores are still popping up. Probably not at the same rate, same rate as a smoke shop would, but they're still popping up. or whatever. So, but no, I agree with you. Um, I think that you have to be competitive to a point when you're selling books. But here's the thing, though, bro. It's not the books. Most, I think that most people who sell books would tell you that you have to sell other stuff in order to actually do something big with your book business. So if you have a large space, do something bigger, do something more.
Right.
One of the things that I had suggested early on is that deal like we can't just sell books and make money doing that. We're not even going to break even selling books. We'd have to sell $300 worth of books every single day. Every day. You know what type of marketing and advertising that would take just to be doing that? And you got to have some type of new something to offer people or vintage stuff to be offering. So you have to do more than just selling books. Even they'll tell you if you sold pens, pads, journals, cups, mugs, like shirts, different type of shirts, different type of things, whatever. That's what brings in uh, income, and then giving people an experience when they walk into your store in general. What is your store known for? So there's 1,001 different things that could be done that are not being done.
Right.
So,
and I think, we were talking about the marketing. It's almost like marketing similar to, the people that go to, the people that go to thrift stores and things. You're going to be marketing. You're going to be really lasering in on bibliophiles, people that absolutely love the smell of a book. You know what I'm saying? And you're selling on that emotion, that connection, that level of discovery where you're offering them to kind of dig through your treasure trove of books and find their jewel that they can take home. And so
right.
that's where I'm saying the pivot and laser focusing in on that specific niche of that smaller segment of a larger market. And that's the thing that allows you to thrive when things slow down. I'm having a little bit of internet issues here, so if I dip out, just understand that we got the internet people, we got the people laying new fiber optic cable in our neighborhood, and it's been screwing with our internet here. So if I drop out, that's what's happened. Just letting y'all know. And so I do think that preparing your business and your life for an economic downturn do have a lot of similar threads, right? I think when you start preparing your life for an economic downturn, you laser focus in on what matters and what's moving the needle and what's generating income for me. And how do I make this thing produce even more? You see what I'm saying? How do I make it serve me even better? This is where a lot of times people do find those side hustles. I saw some data piece where they say now with economic uncertainty, more and more people are looking to find a side hustle to get into to make more money. And so people are already starting the shifts. One of the things that they say is a leading economic indicator, and we talked about the sex robots, y'all, when they start seeing when strippers and sex workers start seeing a downturn, when places like Vegas start seeing slowdowns in tourism, that means there's something coming on the horizon. And so these are things that you see out there, and it's not to terrify anybody. It's just letting people know.
It's to prepare you, man.
Prepare yourself.
It's to prepare yourself. I was just talking about another book, and this one right here was written, I think, in 2012. If you guys don't know, I'm like, I am your proverbial book nerd, and I don't just talk about books. Like, I love to read. So, what it's called, Safe is the New Risky. Hold on, and it's by a guy named Randy Gage. Let me show you guys my screen. Hold on, here we go. So this book right here is Risky is the New Safe.
Okay.
This book talks, and he wrote this book again in 2012. Like, dude, like, and it talked about stuff that's still coming down this proverbial chute that's still going to be happening, right? He talked about cloning. He talked about people not being able to find jobs. He talked about McDonald's employees, like when it's going to become automated. He was talking about this in 2012,
Yeah.
which they were already talking about McDonald's becoming 100% automated, period. And once that happens, you got 1 point some million people out of work. Like 1 point some million people out of work. I also want to show you guys something else right quick, because I think that this hold on, war on hold on. Yep, here we go. This book right here, if you guys want to read about where the stimulus package came from, this is him. This guy wrote this book in like 2017. It was published in 2018. The War on Normal People by Andrew Yang.
Yep.
He talked about, he called it like I forgot the name that he used for, it was like freedom funds or something like that. But then they called it an economic stimulus. So when everybody got that stimulus check or whatever, you can thank him for that. He's the one who predicted it. They was reading about it, and then they took his idea and ran with it.
Yeah.
He also said that it's going to get far worse than what it is today. Far worse than what it is today. And he said that those companies like Apple, those companies like Amazon, those multi-billion-dollar, damn near trillion-dollar companies are basically going to start paying us the same exact way that the oil companies pay people in Alaska. Because what's going to happen is that majority of these industries are about to be disrupted.
Yeah.
They're about to be disrupted. And what I mean by disrupted, what Andrew Yang talked about in his book is, I wanted to show you something right quick. How many people are, hold on, sorry, in the...
I'm going to read this comment while you're doing that.
Go ahead.
And so Chris said, my industry has a lot of really unpredictable changes every 5 minutes. Yeah, it teaches you how to think on your feet. I think to Fearless's point, when that pandemic rolled through, what we saw from the economic checks was almost like triage, because they were trying to force money through the economy. It's like if you have a massive injured part of your body, an arm or a limb or something, sometimes they have to make sure that the blood stays circulating so that they can try to save that piece of your anatomy. You have to force blood through it. And so in order for an economic system work, you have to force money through. And so that was kind of triage, if you will. Last time.
Yes. So I wanted to show you guys. I don't know if you can see it, but it says in 2022, approximately 15.2 million people were employed in the transportation and warehousing sectors, including both transportation and related industries. Now this figure includes over 13.3 million people directly employed in the sector of additional 1.2 million employed in related industries like trucking. Okay. So let's take trucking just for example. Do you realize what's going to happen when those automated trucks, those manless automated trucks start rolling out? Do you realize how many families are going to be disrupted?
Right.
I need y'all to understand this shit. 1.2 million people drive trucks or in some type of transportation industry right now. What's going to happen when those manless trucks hit the road, which they're already on the road? But what happens when they start coming out full mass? Now I want you to think about it like this. If there's 1.2 million people that are going to be disrupted for the most part, you also got to remember that these people have at least 4 people in their houses. So you're not just talking about 4.2 million. You're talking about 1.2 million times 4. times 4.
Wow.
So you're talking about, what is that, 5 million people, 5 million individuals will actually be directly hit by this. And then if you start talking about it overall with warehousing, what happens again if you don't need a person in warehousing? Their objective for the most part is to go automated on everything.
Right.
Right? You working at somebody's job, it is a liability. You are not an asset. You are a direct liability. And what happens if you own a house? What happens if you have car payments? Unfortunately, we never learn to build actual craft, to build actual wealth. We learn to build credit, but we never learn to build, how do you stack cash? How do you build that? How many of us have access to 5, 10, 15, 20, $30,000 right now? Not many people have access to that.
Right.
So you're going to disrupt the whole entire industry, which again will affect in some way 15 million people altogether and more, because everything in America runs off of transportation. Everything from trains to planes to trucks. What do people tell you when you go to a grocery store? Our truck hasn't come yet.
Mm-hmm.
Our truck hasn't come. They barely say our plane hasn't gotten here. They tell you our truck hasn't come yet. Oh, did you hear about that storm down in Texas? That's where our stuff's coming from. Yeah, they're backed up for about another week or so. We're not going to get that. This is what happens. This is the actuality of what happens when transportation runs your life. And then we have a whole entire sector who's about to wipe them the fuck off the earth.
Yeah.
So when people are going out right now, getting a CDL, you better get it right now. You better save every red penny you get.
Well,
you better save everything.
Well, and I think it's going to be the vanguards of that. They go out and get the CDL, but then they're also the first ones to start figuring out how to deploy their own fleet of automated trucks, because I think that's going to be the next pivot. I think there's always going to be people.
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
There's always going to be people that there's always going to be people that hack the system. Human beings are super resilient, and I think a lot of times, we are highly adaptable in situations like that. And
you better become a mechanic.
Yeah.
You better start learning code.
Right.
You better learn something.
Because the next service is going to be people that can service and repair those trucks and keep them rolling. And so that's going to be the next specialization. But then the other side is, I always see whenever there's a new technology boom, there's always something that slows it down a little bit and gets people to rethink. And so that's when we start seeing, all these automated vehicles driving around. If there's like crashes and stuff, that's going to slow it down. And so there's always time to onboard yourself into what's happening.
Correct. Yeah.
You just got to pay attention to what's happening. And you can't, a lot of people, and I understand that because I have to do it too. I'm a news nerd. I'm a political nerd. Like, these are other things. I'm a comic book nerd, marketing nerd, but I'm also in the news, into politics and stuff like that. And I have to guard myself against getting sucked into these political bubbles about different things. And so I think a lot of times you have to balance what your consumption of this stuff is. And so being cognizant of what's happening in the world is not the same as immersing yourself and watching gloom and doom 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so, I think you have to have enough information so that you can always plan what your next move is. One thing I remember, I don't know if this relates, but I'll tell the story anyway. When I was still working I think I was managing family support workers at the time. And, I had been in that job for 2 years. And one of the things that one of the heads of the organization said that stuck with me is, here, if you are in a job for longer than 3 years, we consider you a lifer in that job. You always need to be moving forward.
Right, whereas before it was 20 years.
Right.
Now it's only 3 years, yeah.
And this was like in 2013. And it stuck with me. And so I was in that job for 2 years, and I'm like, okay, so what's the next iteration of my career?
Right, yeah, for sure.
And so I had put in for a job over in the training department because I had been like, I had basically that was like my other home, was working in the training department, helping out, training new classes of workers and things along those lines. And I even rewrote a couple of the training manuals that they had. And so that was kind of where I thought I was going to be. And my supervisor jumped in and said, you know, well, you don't need to be applying for these other jobs and stuff like that. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look like you're, it makes it look like you're not engaged. And I didn't have it doesn't look like you're engaged with the job you're doing.
Right.
And so I had to look at her and I said, and I had to break it down. I was like, I'm a black male in a job that's dominated by white women all around me.
Yeah.
I said, I do not have the privilege of not being ambitious.
I don't have the privilege like that.
Yeah. I have to be like, because this can shut down tomorrow, and I need to know what my next escape plan is, because you've had plenty of people in this organization that didn't, and they thought that they were going to be forever, and then they get caught up in a round of layoffs, and they're not prepared for what's next. And so I'm like, I don't really have that. I'm the breadwinner, and I got 2 kids. I can't, this can't be my destination. And I'm giving 100% of what I got while I'm here, but that doesn't mean I'm planning on being here forever.
Correct.
And so a lot of times I think having that mentality now, adopting that kind of mentality, and no matter what you're doing, understanding what the next version of it is, you don't have to go do something different, but you need to know what the evolution of what you're doing is going to look like.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the big key pieces that people really need to latch onto, because now is not forever.
And it's kind of like, I was just writing this down a little bit, was the mechanics between like an ATM and a teller, but before the ATMs came, well, when there was talk about the ATM coming, the automatic teller machine, where it's automatic, like you can just go up there, pull your car up, get your money out, and keep it pushing. But bank tellers are like, no, you're going to be taking our job. And some of them, they did happen. But what also happened is an emergence of you have to add money to the ATM machines. You have to maintain, you have to keep them upkeep. You have to code them. So there's all these other jobs that happen because of the ATM machine, that if you would have just kept all the money in the bank, those jobs would never exist. So that's kind of one of the things that you were talking about before, is that you're gonna have to pivot in some way once this thing over here is done.
Right.
My friend, her husband works at UP, and I remember we were talking. I was telling her, because I'm always reading about books on what's coming. Right? When I say what's coming, I'm talking about what's about to pop up? What's the next thing? And again, I was reading about automation and how they're talking about how it's going to redevelop everything. And she was like, yeah, with what my husband does, apparently a computer couldn't do that, or this and the other. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, I mean, there's certain things I totally understand that a computer wouldn't be able to get. I get that. But I'm also like, if a computer could watch what he's doing, and you typed in every variable that could happen, or that does happen, or that would, and then you made it autonomous where it just kind of figured it out on its own, his job could be taken tomorrow.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I think you mentioned that a computer can't do what he's doing. Well, 2 things real quick. If you're following us on any of these channels, if you're seeing and you're liking the conversation, please give us a like and a follow. We're trying to grow the audience so we can reach more people. That's the cold pitch. Now, what you're saying is, and this is something that people need to be cognizant of. Like I was telling you about off air about this AI. It's actually not an AI tool. It's more an AI agent where it can act independently and autonomously on some tasks, right? It's talking about that tool Manus, that thing Manus I was telling you about, right?
Okay.
You know, right now you can actually ask it to do some pretty moderate coding, and it will do it, and then it will actually check it for errors, and you could put it into a JavaScript environment and the code will work. So what you're seeing now is a lot of times now, a lot of coders, they might have 4 or 5 different Chrome tabs open with 4 or 5 different AIs working to code things and check the code that's coming out of it. So the idea is the people that learn how to adapt and utilize the technology to further to further what they're doing are going to be the ones that are in better positions. Fighting against it isn't going to yield you the results you're looking for.
Right.
Hotels don't even have mobile keys now. They don't even need front desk staff.
That's crazy.
Now, here's the thing. Here's the caveat to that, Chris. I want to throw this in there. So last year, we're traveling for my kids' basketball tournament, and we decided that we're going to go to the go to the hotel that's just under $100. And I'm saying that for a reason, because there's a meme that I saw that spoke to my heart on this one. So we went to the hotel that was just under $100, and we got in there. And we're kind of doing, because we normally do the bed bug checks and all that other stuff.
Yes.
Because you need to be doing that. If you travel a lot, you need to be checking for bed bugs wherever you land.
And ticks.
Yes. And so we went in there, and so we pull all the sheets back, looking at the bed, and there are blood stains on the sheet. And so a computer can't come up and change them sheets. We needed that we made that little front desk dude like
that is so nasty.
He pulled the sheets off and saw that the blood had soaked down into the mattress. So he replaced the entire mattress and the sheets. And so there's this concept where
my gosh,
there is a stark difference between the hotels that are just under $100 per night and the hotels that are just over $100 per night.
Right.
And we learned our lesson. We ain't messing with them hotels that are just under $100 a night.
No.
Because for just a little bit over $100 a night, we were able to go to the Marriott, and the sheets were clean, and we had cable TV, and the shower didn't look like somebody died in it. And so, but
nasty and funny.
But yeah. So there are going to be elements where we do still need customer service, but I do think that people that do work in customer service are going to be more dependent on technology to do elements of their job.
Right.
If that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense, man. That's funny and nasty.
But we're sitting there like that was one of the motels where you get into a hotel that's so bad you can't even really sleep that night. You just kind of sit up. You just kind of sit up waiting for the next bad thing to happen.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So the Marriott, the Marriott discounts are fire, bro. And so we got in on that. We actually ended up, for the team, we ended up getting a group discount. And it did bring it under $100 a night. Marriott was kind of my GOAT in that situation, because we were traveling to that specific city pretty frequently last year for basketball tournaments, and Marriott was so clutch. Days in, bro, never again, y'all. I'm sorry. The blood stains on the sheets.
That was in Days In.
Yeah, your days is numbered in the Days In, because we rolled up in there, pulled them sheets back, and there was a blood stain on it. Like, yo, what is this? So yeah. And so Marriott was very clutch. Like they probably earned a lifetime customer from that. And it was cheaper. It ended up being cheaper with the discount. But yeah, those just over, like the hotels that are just over $100 a night, those we've had great success with those $80, $88, $89 joints. Nah, not so much.
Oh, what about the $66 that you bring your own blanket?
Bring your own bring your own mattress.
That's what
Marriott only brand for me. Marriott was super clutch for that one. Going to that Days Inn and seeing the bloodstained sheets soaked all the way to the mattress was a transformative experience for me. That was a life lesson.
That was a life lesson.
I'm sitting there telling my kids, is there a way that you can sleep on the bed without laying on the bed? Like, can you hover above the bed? I just don't want you touching it. Like, I don't want you touching the bed. I don't trust the bed here no more. I don't trust anything.
Julie said I'd have slept in my truck after.
Yeah. We were considering it, yo. Like, my wife was
my wife slept in my truck.
My wife was checked out. She's like, nope. She didn't sleep a wink that night. She just sat up there waiting to see if Dexter
the assailant was going to come back and return to finish the job.
If Dexter was going to come out the bathroom with the big plastic bag and the knife and everything and just take us all away.
Right.
And we have already had the bed bug experience at Great Wolf Lodge. And that was not fun. And so we didn't bring it home. We caught it right away and said, new room now. And so we're hyper vigilant when it comes to that stuff. Now Days Inn has me checking for blood stains on the sheets and in the mattress.
So you still go there?
No.
He said no.
No, I call Motel 6. I call Motel 6 the bed invested in. Here's what's crazy. I know last year? Was it the Olympics in Paris?
Bed bug invested in, yeah.
In Paris, I think the Olympics were last year. Yeah, they were last year. They were having a massive bed bug infestation all over Paris. And this was before the Olympics. So a lot of people checked into some 5-star hotels and left with passengers. Because they said that the bed bugs were in the subway, the bed bugs were everywhere.
At that point, you just leave. You just gotta leave.
That's a
you know what? I'm out.
That's a nightmare. That's like a nightmare from hell for me. Just like shoot me off into space, bro. Like, I'm done.
I mean, at least with that'd be a better. I think that'd be a way better comparison than taking bed bugs to your house. But that's nasty.
Yep. AI. I think AI, if we could find AI and create a drone that automatically tracks and destroys bed bugs, I think that's $1 million idea.
No, that's $1 trillion idea.
So
like off top, yeah.
So back on topic. That was I like those little conversations though. And it okay, so I'm the master of tying it back to what we were talking about, right? So seeing the bloodstained sheets really forced us to shift our mindset and focus on some kind of strategic action. Because we had to improvise. Our improvisation was get up here now and change everything. We almost demanded a new room. But I think a lot of times when we face this level of uncertainty going into it, one of the things that's very easy to do, and I mentioned this earlier, it's really easy to follow into that silo of panic where you're in a full-blown panic and you cannot see the forest for the trees. That's a natural thing. I think some people get caught up in this real, like almost a guilt kind of spiral with it, where they feel guilty because they're panicking and they can't really see a cause or a plan of action out of it or course of action out of it. It's a natural thing. And sometimes, just like I said, with, sometimes with grief, sometimes you give into it, understanding that you have to go through the storm so that you can emerge on the other side and get your bearings. And so with all this economic uncertainty, yeah, it's fine if you panic for a little bit, but you have to be able to give yourself that space to freak out and then reorient yourself. And I think a lot of people never get to the reorienting themselves because they feel so guilty about, I panicked and I didn't have a plan. Right. If I'm making sense. And I think a lot of times, one of the things that human beings do, and this is kind of something, we feel guilty about very human impulses and very human feelings. Fear and panic is a human impulse. It's a human fear. And fear can either sharpen your senses or blind you. And we beat ourselves up when we get blinded by it. But everybody does. Some people are able to navigate through it a little bit better. But if this is new to you, like Fearless and I are OGs of this economic downturn. How many recessions have we lived through, bro? How many economic collapses have we weathered? At our age, we've seen it a couple of different times play out. We survived. Listen, the brothers and sisters that survived the crack era, we built a little bit different. We built a little bit different, right?
A little bit.
And so one of the things is I've learned a long time ago, and I had to do this when my mom died. I had to learn how not to feel guilty for feeling human feelings. Human feelings with the economic downturn are panic. Don't feel guilty about being panicking. It's a natural response. It's the thing that keeps you alive. If your ancestors didn't panic when a fucking saber-tooth tiger walked out of the forest, you wouldn't be here.
Right.
The panic is the thing that keeps you alive, right? Like if our ancestors didn't panic when the hut caught on fire and we didn't grab the kids and run outside, we wouldn't have survived to be here at this point in time. Panic is a natural response. Okay. Feeling guilty because you're panicking or because you are having a difficult time coming up with a plan. Now that's the part where it turns into a useless feeling, because now you're beating yourself up for something that is normal, is a normal reaction. So I think with all this stuff going on, give yourself space to be scared. But then when as soon as you're able to start thinking in a straight line, now it's like, okay, so how do I evolve past this? What's my first step? That clarifying first step. How do I get myself unstuck from this? What's the first action, no matter how big or small, that I can take to start moving forward? But give yourself enough grace to feel all the feelings that come along with. I think the economy is built out of balsa wood right now. Give yourself the grace to feel that, and then start planning. That's kind of a tangent, but I feel like it's related to kind of what we're talking about.
I mean, I'm with it. It's good stuff.
So
good stuff.
And so you can audit you can look at what your framework is and kind of see how much flexibility you have within that framework. Whether you have your own business, or you're working a job, or you have a side hustle, or it's a job and a part-time job, how flexible do these things allow you to be? If something changed with your main hustle, how much can you beef up your side hustle, and how quickly could you scale it?
Okay.
I think these are conversations that you have to have with yourself, with your spouse, with your loved ones. If something happens here, what's the next plan? You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of people that sit there and think that, oh, I can just quit my job and go start a business. Fearless and I already had this conversation. It don't work like that. It takes planning. And a lot of times it takes a little bit. You have to plan for longer than you actually think you do. But if you have a framework and a proven side hustle, start thinking about what does this side hustle, what does it look like when this side hustle, what am I doing? What are my actions when this side hustle goes from $5,000 a month to $50,000 a month? What does that look like? What am I doing? Is there anything functionally different about what I'm doing? Start having these conversations, building the bridge for yourself.
Right. Yeah, a friend of mine is commenting on how disgusting her guacamole was on her sandwich from Subway. So, like, yeah, I'm sure it's disgusting.
Subway.
When they put it on there, it looked gross when they were doing it then. So they scoop it up in like a little ice cream thing and smear it onto your shit, and then you wondering why your stomach's hurting now.
So the last time I went into Subway, I walked into Subway. This is back in the days, bro. I'm about to take y'all back. This is back on Subway when Subway was on Ames Street in the Baker's Plaza. Yeah. That was. I walked in.
Oh yeah, where it was sitting like right on the side.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
yeah, I know what you're talking
I
about.
walked into that joint and I saw the lady. She is changing her Band-Aid right
She
before she
worked
started.
there.
She worked there. I walked in. I don't think she was mid pulling the Band-Aid off of her finger and looking at it. And then she looked up and saw me and said, okay, just give me 1 second. I said, you know what? You know what? Just change your Band-Aid. I'm going to go somewhere else. That was my last time ever walking into a Subway. I was little king for life after that. Like,
Yeah.
I said, she looked at me, she like, oh, just give me 1 second. I can start. Nope. Don't worry about me. You take care of that, because that seems to be something that requires your attention.
Yeah, I remember that, Chris. That was a guy out of Florida.
Jared?
No, not Jared.
Oh.
Chris said, I remember the $5 footlong, and the guy who advertised Subway got in serious trouble for that because his boss, I think it happened in like Florida, his boss was leaving or something like that, and he was telling him to do something. He said something along the line of like $5 off or $5 something foot long or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so the guy advertised $5 foot long, and they sold out of everything like throughout the whole weekend.
Uh-huh.
And when the guy came back on, he's like, oh yeah, we did really good, blah blah blah. He said that $5 foot long thing you were talking about is a really good idea.
Mm-hmm.
He said, what $5 foot long thing? And he got in trouble for that because that's not what he said to him.
Yeah.
But it took off so big and caught so much attention that the national people were like, dude, that's a great idea. And then it just rolled out in general. So yeah, that is funny how a small little misunderstanding can launch a whole brand.
Yeah.
Of that. And I'm pretty sure that dude who came up with the idea stayed working at minimum wage.
Here's the thing, though. I would hate to be on the wrong side of Subway as a corporation, bro. They move like the mafia, bro.
Yeah, they do.
I've seen how they do their franchises. There was a time when I was looking to buy a franchise, and I'm like, man, Subway move like the mafia, bro. Like you done came into a crime family in some cases. It's hard to get in. It's easy to get in or hard to escape.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, for me, I think. But see, you talk about it. That $5 footlong, it ended up becoming a cultural moment in and of itself. I didn't participate because the Band-Aid thing was too much for me. Like that broke me down. But I get it became like this cultural thing because for us, like in college, when I was in college, the thing that was like the icon for us was like the Wendy's dollar menu, bro. Like that was so clutch. Like I don't think you understand what it's like to go into your cup holder and find 4 quarters and be able to eat lunch off of that. And so it ended up becoming this cultural phenomenon in and of itself. And it kind of boosted Subway up. And it was a pivot I don't think that they were ready to make on a national scale, but they leaned into it.
Do you remember when Burger King was selling them cheeseburgers for like a penny?
Uh-huh.
Dude, I'm fat as fuck now because of that. And then them dollar, man, they were selling like burgers for like 50 cents and shit. Man, I'm trying to tell the McDevils. Oh man, it was over.
I remember when I played football, bro. When I was playing high school football, McDonald's had like $1 quarter pounders like as a special. Bro, it was like it should be a sin. Like there should be a special chapter in the Bible about how gluttony, about how we did those $1 quarter pounders when I played high school football. Like they should have a picture of us sitting there. It was disgusting, but we were high school football players and my metabolism could take it.
Gotcha.
Now you're gonna be wheeling me into the ER with heart palpitations and stuff. But back then, Man, that was the clutchest of the clutch. But again, I think the $5 footlong thing is you never know what that thing is, that pivot,
You
that
have
that
no idea. You don't
that
know.
opportunity that comes up
You'd
that you
have
can
no
lean
idea.
into. And
Nope.
so I think that kind of tells in terms of you know, we're talking about recession proof in it, and I do think sometimes you have to be more cognizant of the opportunities when they appear in front of you. And I think that's what it primes us to. The $5, yeah, that 5 for $5.99 meal at Arby's is clutch too. Hey, I grew up in those times, man, where if a fast food restaurant had some kind of $5 deal, we was on it. We was on it.
Right.
And so, okay, so jumping back into the topic, we're actually almost done with. We've gone through a lot of this stuff,
I'm
bro,
sure, man.
in, out, and around it.
Yeah.
So we talk about safety. The next bullet point is safest and riskiest businesses in uncertain times. I don't know, because I see so many angles that I think that there are businesses where it looks risky, but there's going to be iterations of it that aren't as risky. And I think it all depends on what market you're serving.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
And what is that again?
Safest and riskiest industries in uncertain times. I do think, like right now, I am in a risky industry with one of my businesses, just because it really is based on what people's wallets are, what people are willing to spend their money on, which is youth sports. That sees a downturn in some instances when you have economic uncertainty, because that's the first thing people pull back on. But there's always going to be a segment of people that this is such a value to them, they're always going to pay for it. And it's finding those people.
Okay.
So, if when you lock in on that specific segment, and so our stuff is so segmented and messaged towards a specific was it phenotype, psych type, whatever archetype of customer, that our stuff, we're going to see, we may see an economic downturn, but we're so locked in with a specific framework of a parent that we want in our system that they're going to be willing to pay for it, because what we're offering is still a value, no matter how we price it to them. So I think it all depends on what your mind state is. I think, especially with economic uncertainty, I do think that it is how you're going to view things and how you perceive things and what opportunities you see in front of you. But I'm thinking like hospitality normally takes a hit when the economy slows down.
Okay.
But then there's also the people that learn there's going to be the companies that learn how to master it. Last time we thought it was going to be restaurants shutting down, and a lot of restaurants did, but others started playing the game in terms of having delivering food to your house stuff. So it is.
What do you mean?
Last time when the pandemic rolled around, a lot of restaurants shut down.
Oh yeah, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir.
But then there are also, that's when we talked about it a couple episodes ago, the ghost kitchen started popping up.
Yeah.
And people started building restaurants through DoorDash. So like one of the restaurants that comes to the top of mind is Chili's. Chili's built an entire separate wing restaurant within Chili's that was specially just on DoorDash, right? I call it Showbiz Pizza. Chuck E. Cheese created
Showbiz, okay.
Chuck E. Cheese created an entire new high-end pizza restaurant that only delivered on DoorDash called Piccadilly's.
Okay.
And it was exclusive on DoorDash. They just used the Chuck E. Cheese kitchens to produce the pizza, and they put they put some strips of basil on it and said it was high end and shipped it out the door and charged people more. So I do think it all depends on how adaptive you are as opposed to specific industries. People say tech, and some of the people I know in tech are like, nah, don't come this way when the economic downturn hits. We the first ones.
Right, yeah. Like Mr. Beast, those sandwiches that we were talking about before.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, man, those burgers are so good. Oh my God. But the place that they sell those at is actually Twin Creek Marcus Theater.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever. So that's okay, tomorrow too. But that's how you find them. That's where you get them from. So if anybody's actually ever looking like, hey, I would like to buy one of those, well, that's where they are.
You know, I know one. Okay, I can throw out one industry that I did pick up on from talking to my boy who does HR. He's out in Silicon Valley. He runs. He actually. It's another podcast that I'm actually distributing, which is called Career Level Up and how to be better at your job. And one of the things is they mentioned if you're looking for an industry that is kind of economic downturn proof and recession proof, if you're looking for a career path, you need to be looking into payroll, processing, managing payroll. That is one of those that doesn't really get impacted by what the economy is doing, because businesses always need somebody to make sure that their checks are getting out on time. So if that's the kind of gym you're looking for, that's what I can provide you. I know we've been on here for a little bit, Fearless. So are you ready to start wrapping up? Because I know you got some stuff going on. Or we got a little bit more time.
I do. Hold on, what time is it?
12:16.
Okay. We can do another 15 minutes if you want.
Cool.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, wrap up in we can wrap up in 15.
Okay. So digital services are things that happen, that pop out during recessions. I think we're going to start seeing more leaning into AI. We're going to see an acceleration of the use of the technology, to be honest with you. We're starting to see, I'm playing around with custom GPTs, if you will, where you can basically have your own personal AI that has all of your working knowledge. And you can make it available to other people. I do think there's going to be some kind of lane for that coming up. I think people are going to utilize the emerging technology in ways that are going to shock and astonish some of you when things slow down. I know, and I logistics are crazy. I know that we can get in and talk about logistics and shipping and all that other stuff. One of the things is to be prepared for is sometimes you need to start taking, and it's something Fearless said earlier in the podcast about being homeless, is taking stock of what you actually don't need. And not saying you need to eliminate it from your life, but start squaring yourself with, if this thing goes away, I need to figure out what I'm going to do. And this is the product side of things. I'm talking about just raw products, but it can also mean bigger things in your world. But specific products either going to be out of your price range, or you may not even see them.
Correct.
And so the attachment to material items is something that, you probably need to sit down and evaluate. If you have kids, it's probably sitting down and talking to them about, that Nintendo Switch 2 that you're really excited about. We got to see what happens in the world. That may not be a birthday present. That may be something that's Christmas time. You see what I'm saying? Or you may learn how to have to deal without for a while. So start preparing your family for stuff that, for the material things that you think the material things that may get impacted by this. A lot of handheld technology. I ain't upgraded my phone in about 2-3 years. I know people that upgraded every 6 months. Y'all about to be hurt. Y'all about to be hurt. And so it's going to start looking different. So figure out what you.
What do you mean by that?
Because the way the supply chains are set up, bro. So right now we can't really get, like, all the supply chains basically globally are situated in and around China. And iPhones, if I remember correctly, iPhones are made in, I think they're made in the Foxconn. I think that's who produces them. They also produce some Android devices as well, which is why the entire Android and iPhone thing is a little bit ridiculous, because the only thing that's different is the internals and the software they run. But I mean, all the components and stuff are pretty much the same. And so in order to get a new iPhone or Android, there's going to be steps to it. And it might take a little bit longer for you to get your stuff. People are already seeing it with these orders from was it Temu, where they're like, dang, this thing rang up for $15, but once to land it, to get it here is going to be 50.
Yeah, that part. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
people are struggling with that piece of it, where it's disposable kind of apparel that you can, cheap and easy apparel that you can buy. And so a lot of times people aren't really prepared for it. They're not necessarily prepared for, what does my life look without this stuff?
Right. Yeah, I like what Julie just said. She said, when I was put on disability, my son and I learned in a hurry what we can live without. Yeah, because when you have to, there's nothing else you can say about it.
Right.
Like, if y'all like eating from, what is that, filet mignon or whatever,
Yeah.
that's that. Now it looks like hamburgers from, it looks like that dollar menu is gonna be dinner for a little bit.
Go hit up them flat iron. Go get one of them flat iron steaks and chop it up, because that can be.
I mean, seriously. Or, I always tell people, man, Open Door Mission feeds you for free.
Right.
And technically, your tax dollars pay for that. So, yeah, I mean, I remember this lady said to me, she said, why would somebody go to you about business if they could come to us? Why would somebody go to you and you charge them for business stuff if they can come to us to get it for free? And I said to her, I'm like, well, isn't that the same thing of, why would a person go to Longhorn Steakhouse and eat there if they can go to the Open Door Mission and eat for free? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Somebody's going to pay for the shit regardless.
Yeah, they're going to pay for the experience.
They're going to pay for it regardless. I mean, I was just watching something about these people doing a whole $1 million steak.
Mm-hmm.
No, not million, $1,000 steaks. He's like, dude, I've had one. Tastes just like any other steak.
Right.
But it's the ambiance, it's the experience that you get when you go in there that people are paying for.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if your whole objective is to make people feel good about themselves, then everything that you do for the most part is what you do. I mean, who gives a shit at that point? If I can still get you from point A to point B with all the theatrics and all the other stuff, and this guy over here can do the same exact thing without the theatrics, but I'm going to charge you an arm and a leg for it, and he's not. Some people are just going to pay for that one. Other people will pay for this one because they like to be entertained. Fucking wonderful. Give it to them.
Well, and people pay for the things that they value, right? Like,
that's all it is.
We went to Mahogany Prime, and that's the expensive steakhouse around here, or one of them. And, the food was good. Well, I'm not disparaging it, but I've had better steaks in cheaper places. And a lot of people are paying for the environment and all the other stuff. I mean, the steak was good. It was really tender and great.
I've had better steaks in cheaper places.
Right. Like I could, I know my way around a grill. I can griddle up a pretty good steak myself, but you paid for the experience. I paid for the ambiance of taking my wife out to an expensive restaurant. And so that's what it was. I think a lot of times people get sucked into this. They think that they view the entire world through their own pocketbook, and they think that everybody ascribes the same value to things as they do. Chris, I use my phone till it literally breaks and I get a new one. I rarely upgrade. I feel that one, bro. But I think a lot of times people are locked into, I want the newness of a phone, right? I think sometimes people get locked into, well, why would I pay for this coaching or this thing that this information you're providing when I can go on YouTube and get it for free? I don't know. Why would you? Go get it for free.
Bye.
Go invest your time and go find it on your own, because you don't value it. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you're going to invest your time putting all the information together that you can already get in one place. It just depends on, what do you value more, the money or the time? And I think people get too caught up in the comparison shopping, especially business owners. We get caught up in it bad, where we sit down and overanalyze it too much, and we start viewing the entire world through our own pocketbooks, as opposed to what will people actually pay for what you know or what you can do. So
I love that.
And that is the comparison thing. Why would I pay for this when I can go get it? Hey, I learned early on in business. I don't do that with people. Like, well,
Yeah,
such and such is giving it over here for this amount. Okay, then
you should go there. You should go there.
go there because I think they're going to serve you better.
Yeah.
I'm not going to beg you. You can go over there. I'm fine with losing you if my service doesn't align with what your needs and wants and desires are. That's fine. Go over there and be with them. Give them, you could pay them for it and you might be more happy with the service. I'm cool with that. I think a lot of times when we're in that scarcity mind state with business ownership specifically, we're so locked in on trying to maintain a relationship with somebody that isn't really aligned with us. They don't necessarily value what you were providing, but you'll bend over backwards to give them something to maintain that relationship of where they don't necessarily value or respect you in the first place.
Right.
All right. Said, just give me a rib with a potato and yeah. Now, some people, they can't, they'll burn water. And so some people ain't got that skill set in the kitchen. And so for them, it is more valuable to go pay for somebody to prepare it. All right. I'd rather sit on my patio by my fire pit eating a steak than, yeah. I ain't paying $1,000 for a steak. Now, if I can get a whole side of beef and throw it in the smoker, I might pay, $400 for that. But $1,000 steak, I mean, unless the steak has like $900 tucked inside of it, I ain't paying that much for no steak, bro. The steak comes with a side order of 9 $100 bills. All right, let's go. Let's do that. I'll eat that all day. So, all right. Any major takeaways you got, Fearless, from our discussion here about recession-proof in your business or imposter syndrome? Because I think that's another live stream that we can do in and of itself.
Yes, you do. Oh my God, her view is beautiful. Like her view is gorgeous. Like she lives like out in this big beautiful pasture, and like, good God, that's tall. What?
Yeah.
Like it's like her, like, yeah. So I 100% agree with you, Julie. Your path. I've even thought about just going back up there just to kick some rocks around. I'm not even coming up there for now. I'm just up here just to kick some rocks, just to kick some rocks around. Like her view is just beautiful up there. Oh my gosh! Like, so yeah, you know what? Here's the thing, man. I think that like I tell my people at on Ask Fearless at night. One of the things that we talk about a lot of is I think that when you understand who and what you are,
mm-hmm.
what you bring to the table, and again, that it's a process to figure that out sometimes. But once you figure it out, man, it will do something to you. Mm-hmm. It does something to you. So, like I said, when you figure out not even what you want to do, but who you are as a person, mm-hmm. the type of person that you want to become, and then work to becoming that person. And it doesn't matter what people throw at you. You're going to figure that shit out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So one of the things that we do is we help people to, number one, identify what your biggest values in life are, right? Because they're your biggest drivers. The second thing that we do is help you create a what we call a constitution. Mm-hmm. A constitution is a set of principles, a set of rules, regulations, ethics, morals that you set, and they can be as many as you want. And then the last thing is to create a pledge or an oath or a mission statement for yourself, for your life. And I think that when we do those 5 things, it becomes easier to kind of help people with their dreams, goals, aspirations, and even problems, because we now have a foundation to start from. You know what I mean? And most of the time we don't really have that. So I think that when we talk about pivoting, when we talk about making our lives and stuff kind of recession proof, I think that that's kind of what we're talking about is understanding those three concepts. And once you get those down, I think it makes life a little bit more bearable.
Right.
I'm not telling you that it's going to prepare you, but only to a certain degree. You know what I'm saying? I think that there's this phrase that's called that's in Latin. It's premonitus, which basically means to be forearmed. To be forewarned is to be forearmed. So if you know what's coming for you, then you can prepare for it. Most of us aren't prepared because we never got prepared in the first place. So when those situations hit, when that death arises, when you lose your contract, when this over here happens, when you are so unprepared for it, then you're reactive as fuck.
Right.
And then you start saying and doing shit that ordinarily you probably wouldn't have. But because you never prepared for nothing, this is now where we are.
And one of the things is you have to naturally be prepared for it. When you do reach that point where you're locked in and you have that clarity of who you are and what your purpose is, it's going to make people feel uncomfortable. And that's where you do an audit of who actually you need in your circle. So it provides
Right.
that level of clarity. So it's going to alienate some people. Be prepared for that. So Fearless, when you on?
8 o'clock every night.
All right.
Tonight we are celebrating our 40th. We always clap for ourselves. We do a proverbial clap for ourselves because if you don't clap for yourself, nobody else will. Okay. A proverbial 40 episodes. Again, thanks to those individuals who helped me get here. Jessica, Julie, all that good shit. So yeah, I mean, even you helped me for, just to kind of get me started and putting a camera in front of my face, grabbing the microphones. And if you guys can see, I have a red, what is these called? Pop stickers or whatever I think that they call. I got a whole bag of these things, but I love red.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I have the same exact, if you guys notice, my, what is this, broom handle?
Yep. Boom arm.
It's the same one that Brian has. So I used to tell him when he was coaching me, that's what I would tell Brian, like, dude, I think I am the proverbial coach. I'm the proverbial client that you actually need. So whenever you write out who your avatar is, it needs to be like somebody like me. What's up, Leon? Thank you, little brother. It needs to be somebody like me because again, like anytime, like when we were had this working relationship and he was coaching me, anything he would say, I'm coachable.
Right.
So he would be like, I would ask the question, and he said, okay, well, you need this, you need that. You really don't need this, but if you got it, that would help. By the time the man finished putting the period on the sentence, I'd already bought it.
Right.
And then what happened is that over we've been rocking together for a minute now.
Yep.
And I'd start putting everything together that he told me. So he would say, all right, do this, work on this, figure this out, play around with this. And that's all I did. I would just play around with stuff until I got it. And that's what the whole trial and error thing is based on in general is figuring out what works, do it until it doesn't work anymore, figure out something else, and then keep going that route.
Right.
So again, and I also think that we have to be open.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta stay open. You know what I'm saying? Like seriously, you have to stay open. Because a lot of us we're closed off. If we don't already know it, we think that we already do. And I notice with myself, I'm always trying to prove somebody wrong. And I'm like, yeah, you can do that and stay broke though. Or you can keep your mouth shut, put your guards down and listen a little bit.
Right.
And figure something out that you didn't know before. So that's kind of what I've been doing. And being that I've been doing this every night now, it helps me keep not only myself accountable, but it helps me keep everybody else around me accountable as well.
Right.
You know, one of the things I was talking to Jessica last night, she was like, dude, you know, one of the scariest things about what you do is, she said that one day when you came to my house and you like, hey, let's put your stuff on film. Where's your stuff at? And you held me accountable right to my face, right then and there on the work that I was supposed to be doing. She said, dude, that was not only infuriating, but that shit's scary. That's scary. That is scary.
It is.
You know what I'm saying? So if I had to leave a person with something, I would leave you with all that shit. You know what I'm saying? You know, find, like I said before, find it, face it, reframe it. That's what I do. I help people find their shit, face their shit, reframe their shit. Same way Julie did for me, whether she knew it or not.
Hey,
That was it.
That's what's up. You know, y'all can find me on the Unstuck sessions. More or less, it's a framework. Initially, it's for ADHD brains, right? But a lot of people can see benefit out of it. I've talked to a lot of people that get benefit out of some of the frameworks I put forward. Really, the Unstuck sessions is figuring out what the thing is that's holding you back and removing that out of your way. And so you can catch me on Monday afternoons, around 1 doing my live stream for the Unstuck sessions. And then on Fridays, I have a body doubling session where we work together. We don't have to interact, but just having another person, whether it's in the same room or virtually, that can help you get through those difficult tasks that you need to get done before the weekend. And so I normally hop on that around 11:30 and we go until whatever. I may steal some of Fearless's idea about the daily live streams. I just got to find time in my world to do it.
Okay.
But because I do see the benefit that it's brought to him. But the Unstuck sessions is really about helping people who have ADHD or people that have a thing that they can't initiate the thing and start moving forward. And it uses a framework that's the start dirty framework. We start with something that's stupid simple. You find the easiest version of the thing that you can do right now. Expect to suck at it and embrace it. Embrace the fact that you're not going to be amazing at it when you first start. And then you ship it out anyway.
Okay.
And ship it out can mean you start dirty in terms of you just put the camera up and record the thing that you wanted to record. You expect not to be great at it, and then you post it somewhere. It could be as simple as that.
Okay.
And then after you've done it, you review, see what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, and then you figure out how to make it a little bit better. But that starting dirty framework is really the backbone of how I've built everything that I do. My specific lane comes from working with kids and families, helping people through some of their darkest times, and also developing workers in some of their darkest times. And so my approach with the Unstuck sessions is really kind of that consulting base. I'm consulting with you. I'm checking in with you. I'm cheering you on. And so that's what we do on the platform. And so, and you can catch me on Mondays and Fridays. And of course, Tuesdays here. I'm going to figure out my bet. I just did an episode yesterday using I wasn't using StreamYard. I was using the Meld Studio. And that one was a hot disaster. Because I'm still learning the platform and a couple sites weren't streaming and I still was trying to figure it out and I was learning as we go. And so my entire plan for that day was how to navigate a job that's not ADHD friendly. And I went off on a whole conversation about my entire work history and then spent the next 20 minutes fooling around with the software, trying to make sure everything was streaming. And then just went into, it put me in ADHD hell. I was in chaos at that point in time, but I shipped it anyway. And I posted it anyway.
Okay.
And so that was my session yesterday. What I can do better is spend more time in the new platform and learn it a little bit better. But you live and you learn. I've kind of grown past the point of how does this look to other people? And I
Right.
just do it. I just put it out there. So that's what the Unstuck framework is. If you need somebody to help guide you and help getting you started on whatever the thing is, hit me up. I ain't hard to find.
Yeah, me neither. I'm here every single night. I was talking to my friend of mine. She was like, "Hey, man, where have you been?" I'm like, "Do you know where I'm at every night? Every night, I'm at the same place. You know, so come rock with me." So, but yeah, man, I appreciate you guys for joining. Like my guy said, please follow whatever you guys are seeing us on. Please subscribe to it. Please
Yeah.
just send us a good show, needs work. Send us something because it lets the algorithm know that people are actually participating
Right.
in what you got going on. So I'm learning that myself now.
Yep.
Before I wouldn't have even said that, but now I'm like, again, like Brian, I'm learning, trial and error.
Right. And so, yeah, follow it and you get more stuff like this. So, we're going to wrap it up. I'm Brian.
Fearless Cummings.
All right. Talk to y'all later. Be easy.
Deuces.